Zodwa Wabantu.
Zodwa didn't just show up one day and decide to shock the world. Her story wasn't a fluke, a random viral moment, or an accident of fame. It was a Formula One built on defiance, pain, and a ruthless understanding of how South Africa's attention economy works. For years, she didn't just exist inside it, she ruled it. But somewhere along the way, the machine that made her unstoppable chewed her up and spat her out. What followed wasn't just a fall from grace. It was a total collapse, the implosion of a brand that once turned scandal into gold. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to the streets of Soweto, to a young woman named Zodwa Rebecca Libram, who walked away from home at 16 with nothing but survival instinct.
When I left home when I was 16, I didn't know where I was gonna sleep or eat.
Before she became a national headline, she was a debt collector, tough, unpolished, and already learning how to weaponize her presence in any room. She didn't have a manager, a PR team, or a record label. All she had was herself, and that turned out to be enough. Because her genius was in understanding one thing. In a country that preaches morality but celebrates rebellion, outrage is a business. She looked at a society obsessed with telling women what to wear, how to sit, and how to behave, and said, I'll do none of that. I'll turn everything you hate into a paycheck. And when she stepped into the Durban club scene, she didn't just dance, she performed defiance. She made discomfort her stage. It was at Eyadini Lounge, that beating heart of Durban nightlife, where she became more than just another local act. Her dances went viral, her vow show became a statement, and a refusal to wear underwear, that wasn't just a stunt, it was a weapon. In a single act of rebellion, she transformed the taboo into a trademark.
Are you wearing a panty now?
No,
You don't wear
I
a
didn't
panty?
wear. Can I show you?
Yeah, so early.
Oh, okay.
You show us later.
Okay.
What is it about you not wearing a panty? Is it comfortable?
Yeah,
The country's moral gatekeepers were horrified, which was exactly the point. Because for her, moral panic wasn't bad press. It was marketing. She had cracked the formula of modern celebrity. Offense equals visibility, and visibility equals money. It's the same cultural engine that built global icons like the Kardashians. Except she did it in a country still wrestling with what public womanhood is allowed to look like. And just like that, she became South Africa's most dangerous kind of star one who didn't need approval to get attention. By 2017, she was everywhere. The club gigs multiplied, her appearance fees skyrocketed, and record labels came knocking. Afrotainment signed her, and television followed. Zodwa, Uncensored wasn't just a show, it was a mirror, reflecting South Africa's complicated relationship with its own conservatism. On screen, she was raw, loud, unfiltered, and for the first time, in control of her narrative.
With social media, they think they know me and they don't know me. So each day by day, when I have people like you give me exposure.
Every breakup, every headline, every viral clip, all of it became her property. What used to be gossip now had a price tag. And while most controversial figures burn out fast, she was smart enough to turn the chaos into a business model. The show ran for multiple seasons, proving that she wasn't just a tabloid name, she was an institution. Her fame had structure now. She wasn't just a dancer, she was a producer, an entrepreneur, and a reality brand. Then came the corporate deals. When Mazda mainland tapped her as a brand ambassador in 2021, It was a surreal full circle moment, a woman who built her fame by rejecting respectability, now representing a car brand. It was validation that controversy could, in fact, be commercial. For a moment, she had turned what most people saw as a scandal into a scalable enterprise. She had won the game. But fame built on offense has one fatal flaw. It must constantly escalate. Once the audience stops gasping, the brand stops growing. And for Zodwa, the shock started to lose its edge. Her pantyless act had once broken the internet, but by 2020, it barely raised an eyebrow.
I won't act tough. I won't act like a steering.
The same internet that made her famous had created millions of Zodwas for free. Instagram was overflowing with women who danced, flaunted, and performed sexuality in ways once deemed unthinkable, and none of them had to charge a cover fee. When shock becomes endless, it stops being valuable. The market moved on, but Zodwa's brand didn't evolve with it. She admitted it herself. The gigs were drying up. The money wasn't coming in like before. She was still Zodwa, but the economy that made her rich no longer existed. Social media had flooded the supply of what she once offered exclusively. And in business, when supply explodes, prices crash. The once premium shock value had become public domain. But before we get to the fall, it's important to recognize the walls she was fighting against, because Zodwa wasn't just battling audience fatigue, she was battling entire nations. Between 2017 and 2022, she was banned from performing in Zimbabwe, detained and deported from Zambia, and blocked from Malawi, all because of what she represented. A woman publicly controlling her body without shame. Officials called her lewd, immoral, a threat to national values. In Zimbabwe, traditional leaders complained she should wear underwear because chiefs would be upset. Even Robert Mugabe, the president himself, stepped in publicly denouncing her as a naked nobody. That moment told you everything about the power she held, a dancer so controversial that she could disrupt politics. Zodwa wasn't just a performer anymore. She was a cultural lightning rod. Her defense was simple. I am a liberated woman. People need to know they cannot tell us how to live. It was defiance distilled into a sentence, but those international bans did something more damaging than censor her. They cut off her ability to expand. Each country that blocked her wasn't just rejecting her values, they were shrinking her market. Without regional tours, endorsements, or cross-border appearances, Zodwa's brand was trapped inside South Africa's borders. And once a domestic audience got tired of the act, there was nowhere left to go. Still at her peak, Zodwa wasn't just scandal, she was symbolism. To academics and feminists, she embodied something profound. A working class woman who refused to be silent. A body that said, I am not your idea of decency. She stood against patriarchal expectations and turned self-possession into spectacle. For a generation of women told to behave, she represented the thrill of not caring. She was messy, contradictory, real, the kind of figure that forces society to look at itself. But even revolutionaries can contradict their own message.
Single. So, yeah, now I'm born and ngifuna paper. I let you know ngiyapepeka.
For someone who built her empire on freedom and expression, Zodwa's downfall was sealed the moment she weaponized those same freedoms against others. When she made homophobic and transphobic remarks on a reality show,
bacanga ukuthi banekhekhe and ninompipi alinakhekhe yithi sinekhekhe.
The audience that once defended her couldn't justify it. Suddenly, the rebel became the oppressor. Feminist scholars who once analyzed her as a symbol of agency now saw her as a cautionary tale proof that you can't pick and choose your liberation. You either stand for all freedom or for none at all. That scandal marked a shift. Her brand, once rooted in defiance, began to feel hollow, like someone repeating old lines in a new world that no longer applauded. The educated urban audiences who once celebrated her for breaking norms turned away. And what was left was the gossip crowd, the same tabloids that feed off collapse more than they ever celebrate rise. By 2022, the collapse wasn't theoretical anymore. Zodwa herself started talking about money problems. The bookings weren't steady. The businesses she tried to start, like her land purchase venture, never quite took off. And it wasn't just her. Statistically, most South African startups fail within the first few years. Lack of capital, poor structure, market mismatch. But in her case, it was worse. She was trying to build stability while her public image was still chaos. Brands like that don't attract investors. They scare them. The unfiltered hustler aesthetic that once made her lovable had now become bad for business. The same woman who once symbolized rebellion was now aging out of the scandal economy. And without a new product, she was stuck recycling her old one. And that's when the pivot happened, the one no one saw coming. In 2024, Zodwa was unveiled as the ambassador for the newly formed African Movement Congress, or AMC, a political party promising empowerment and unity. On paper, it sounded noble. In reality, it looked like desperation. For years, politics and celebrity have shared one thing: both need attention to survive. And in that sense, it was a perfect marriage of convenience. The AMC needed a name that could break through the noise, and she needed relevance that didn't depend on clubs or controversy. She said the timing was right, that she was grabbing the opportunity with both hands. But the truth is, the move reeked of survival, not conviction. Her image, once tied to sexual freedom and individualism, didn't align with the party's conservative, family-centric messaging. But politics, like fame, doesn't always need consistency. It just needs noise. And Zodwa still had that. By attaching herself to a political movement, she bought herself another news cycle, another round of interviews, another set of headlines. But it also confirmed what everyone already suspected. The entertainer was gone. What remained was the ghost of a brand doing whatever it could to stay seen. When you zoom out, Zodwa's story reads like a compressed life cycle of modern celebrity: rapid rise, media domination, overexposure, inevitable decline. The very forces that made her famous: controversy, virality, spectacle, are the same ones that destroyed her exclusivity. She was too accessible, too constant, too everywhere. And when everyone's shocking, no one is. It's easy to mock her now. The desperate reinventions, the art public stunts, the endless self-branding. But to do that would be to ignore what she achieved. For a woman from the township with no connections and no privilege to hijack the national conversation using nothing but audacity, that's genius. She cracked the code of the media age long before influencers knew what algorithms were. She built a career of authenticity, even when it was messy, even when it was controversial.
wake up, take a towel and brush it over my. Yes. I won't change because I'm raw. I'm coming from the streets as a Soweto, and I know the struggles.
The tragedy isn't that she failed. It's that her success model was never built to last. In the spectacle economy, you can't scale scandal. You can't mass produce controversy and expect it to stay profitable. Once the formula is public, it stops being magic. The internet is an endless factory of new provocateurs, and Zodwa's act, once radical, became nostalgia. She became the template and then the cautionary tale. Even her defenders admit it now. She needs a rebrand. But what do you do when the world only knows you for being outrageous? Reinvention is easy for artists with talent, but for Zodwa, the product was her personality. And you can't replace that without replacing yourself. Maybe that's why her political pivot feels more like recycling than rebirth. It's a new arena, yes, but the same strategy, attention through provocation. A last-ditch effort to stay visible in a system that punishes silence. Because in the end, being forgotten is worse than being hated. But beneath the headlines and the scandals, there's something undeniably human about her fall. Zodwa's career wasn't built in boardrooms or polished by PR teams. It was built in the grit of nightclubs, in front of people who saw themselves in her hustle. That rawness, that refusal to conform, that working class boldness, it's what made her magnetic. And it's also what made her fragile. The same system that cheered her rise was never going to protect her when the crowd moved on. If you listen closely, there's a kind of poetry in how it all ended. Her collapse wasn't a moral defeat. It was economic, technological, cultural. Her product, the live, shocking body, lost its scarcity in a digital world that made everything visible all the time.